alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is Raisa Ghiwala, the divorced Muslimah coach, and I want to welcome you to this conference, Parenting the Prophet's Way. Today, I'm going to be talking about dealing with something called parental alienation and dealing with losing your kids while you're going through a divorce. And especially in a high conflict divorce and co-parenting. So have you ever felt hopeless, defeated, and found yourself in unfair circumstances? You may be going through a divorce with your husband, but it feels like your kids are being ripped away from you. There's so much of a mess with internal conflict. You don't know what to do to make the excruciating pain just stop, make the madness stop. Everything feels like it's out of your hands. You're losing control. You're trying so hard for your kids to not get caught in the crossfire of your interactions with their other parent, but it's not working. My children were suffering, and I was experiencing parental alienation. So what is this word, parental alienation? Parental alienation is the manipulation of a child's mind and attachment bonds in a negative way. And yes, it is abusive. Excuse me. We're talking about attachment bonds here that children need to survive and to thrive. And those attachment bonds, they start off with their parents, okay? And parental alienation is a process and the result of psychological manipulative control of a child for the purpose of restricting or restraining the child's relationship with the other parent. It sounds really harsh, doesn't it? And it is. It just happens in a very, very subtle ways. So, what the way it manifests could be when the parent is bad mouthing the other parent to the child in obvious and subtle ways, like your mom is so lazy, or your dad doesn't care, or if a responsible parent would do this. Oh, you did that at their house, at Aram's house. We don't do that here. Limiting contact between the child and the other parent. When they want to visit, and they want to see, or they want to talk on the phone, or even have their pictures in their room in your home, but you don't allow that. Basically erasing the other parent from the life and mind of the child. It's like creating an impression or an idea that the other parent is dangerous or unfit or unworthy of a relationship with their child, forcing the child to choose between, each parent, including that parent's extended family, meaning that it's not okay to talk about you wanting to visit them, or you wanting to spend time with them, or doing any activities with them. It's frowned upon, and it sends the message to the child that that you won't have approval when you have this relationship with the other parent, right? And children who are stuck in the middle of this and who are experiencing this, the way that they will manifest their behavior, which is actually just a symptom of what the underlying problem is. On the outside, the behavior will look like the child pushing the parent away. Don't come to my soccer game. Don't come to my graduation. I don't want you to come. Like defiance from the child, or aggression towards you in a way that is excessive, and maybe your child didn't demonstrate before, pushing you away, shutting you out, not wanting to share anything about their life with you, and even hearing words and verbiage that you have heard before from your child's other parent, but now you're hearing it from your child. It could be really triggering for you. and just being really challenged by your child, being really argumentative, combative, and explosive, and kind of like a sense of entitlement. This comes about when a child is made to feel like the other parent doesn't do anything for them. So, anything that you do, they feel entitled to and ungrateful for or unappreciative. And also when the child can no longer recognize any positive interactions or feelings that they used to have about you, right? And the child actually ends up putting it on themselves and taking responsibility for that alienation. And in fact, they see it as them rejecting you, and rather than it coming from the other parent, which is usually what happens. It Even when it starts from a message that they're getting from adults or their other parent, about their relationship with you, at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that it becomes the child's reality, becomes their lived experience, and becomes their truth for them. And I have found that in this situation, fighting for your parental rights to have your children in your life from a defensive position leaves you drained, depleted, and in despair. What do I mean by this? Like when you feel like your rights are being taken away, and your relationship is being severed, and you are fearing, the worst case, losing your kids, right? Not having a relationship with them completely rejecting you. Fighting from this space of fear and loss, resisting and pushing and forcing and convincing. And I'm talking about even taking it to court, right? Because a lot of times in these situations, we find ourselves stuck in court battles, which I found myself as well, right? Where I was sensing that I was losing control and I was losing touch and that relationship. And it just, I didn't know what to do. So I looked at all different avenues that was going to help me to force them to come back, to, get them to come back, to convince them, and even legally, force them. And it's like, no matter what you do, who you talk to, including lawyers and judges, things are just not working out for you. It's like there's that forcing, that convincing, and that pressurizing. It actually, what ends up happening is that it puts the children more in a chokehold, because you're pushing from your end and the other parent is pushing from the other end. You're pushing to get them and pull them back, and the other parent is pushing them and pulling them away from you. So like when you pull one way here and you pull another way here, it actually hurts the child even more and more and more. And it's literally like, being tugged from two ends, and causes a lot of damage for the children, right? And if it feels as if the one who is doing all the manipulation and playing all the tricks and painting you as the villain or the unfit mother is winning, when it looks like that, in actuality, what we end up doing is actually fighting with Allah when we resist His decree. And when you operate, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute, but when you continue to operate from a place of fear and scarcity and loss, like you have to hold on tighter or you're going to lose the thing that you have a right to or that you're entitled to, that space, it creates a self-fulfilled prophecy. And what that means is that you end up creating the circumstance or the situation of the thing that you're most trying to avoid. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that indeed Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. I realized that this was a formula. I knew that this was a formula after going through many, many tests, in my separation, my divorce, and understanding how it works. I was at a new level of being tested and a new level of operating from the deep understanding of this verse, that I knew I had to turn back to Allah in a way that I hadn't before, in a deeper way. And I had to turn inward because I knew that the messages that Allah was sending me on how to deal with this situation was going to come from inside, and that He was the only one that can fix this for me, right? And it was just another tawakkul building experience that I was going through, right? First the divorce and the grief, and then now losing my babies, the ones that, I intentionally put aside my life, my career, and poured in all of myself into raising them. And that included having a strong connection and a bond with them. And, being threatened with losing that, I knew that the only way to deal with this, and in a way that is going to be good for me and my children in this life and the next, was going to be counting on this promise of Allah. So I'm going to share with you a time when I was trying to hold on so tight, and I was losing my grip, and I was holding on even tighter. These are my two older boys who are 19 and 17 now. This was about 3 years ago. And that was a period of time where what I described earlier was exactly happening. There was more and more of a push for them to just let me go. It was way too painful for them to hold on to those bonds that were created in childhood, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for us between mother and child, and was nurtured in their childhood. However, that maintaining that relationship was getting more and more difficult because there was so much pressure on the other side to choose. And the side that gives a lot of the pressure is the side where the children will gravitate towards, right? And as I was experiencing this parental alienation, it wasn't safe for them to choose me. And the parental alienation, the thing is that the children are being already tugged and pulled in one direction. So what is the right thing to do for your children when you love them unconditionally, right? Does a parent, does a mother do the same so her rights are met, so she doesn't lose her rights, even if it's at the cost of hurting the children even more? And I think, being a mother and being a parent, we all know that we make sacrifices for our children, even if that means that we end up losing, or we end up, going without. I think most parents, especially mothers, are more than happy to make that sacrifice. And what I realized during this time is that I was battling with their father in my head, from all the frustration about how he was to blame for my boys pulling away from me and rejecting me. So whatever was happening, and my boys were displaying this behavior towards me, pushing me away, rejecting me, not wanting anything to do with me, literally visiting their family members who are from their father's side, who live, very close to me, a few miles away, would come to visit and would not even contact me. And I would come to find out about it later on. So all of these things in my mind, the pain from it and the frustration of it, of the injustice of it, I was blaming their dad. And you know what? Whether he's doing it or not is irrelevant here, because when we start blaming people, even if they're at fault, right? Even if they are responsible for what's happening, it's when we start blaming people, we start losing hope in ourselves. We start feeling helpless. We start feeling defensive. and defenseless, right? And defeated. Because if the other person is doing all of this and they have all the power and the control, well, then how are you going to solve the issue? You have to get them to change. You have to get them to stop. You have to get them to behave in a different way. And how are you going to do that? That's impossible to, change people, force them to do or to not do certain things, right? That's not the way. The way is, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, is changing what is within ourselves to open up the door for the promise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, that he will change our circumstance and our situation. So when I realized that wait a minute, I'm going to battle with their father in my head. Yet that battle was, that defensiveness, that battle, that anger, that frustration was being demonstrated and basically spilled out with the interactions that I was having with my boys, right? Angry, frustrated, defensive, like, why are you behaving like this? Like, this is, we had an event once where there was one of my sisters was getting married, and they were supposed to be with me in that weekend. They were supposed to come, but they refused to come, and it was a huge thing in the family, and it was a huge rejection for me. And there are many more rejections that came after that, but that was one of the big ones. And so sometimes I was my own worst enemy at times, because how I was feeling, and I was spilling that out onto the children that were just stuck in the middle, and they were just doing what they needed to survive, so they don't feel the pressure anymore, right? And the times where there's pulling from here and there's pulling from here, that's a lot of pressure. And so, at that point, I had to pause and I had to go inward and check into myself. And when I paused and I looked inward and I sat in silence and grounding myself in my relationship and my connection to Allah and to myself, and looking for what do I need to do here? Allah, guide me, show me, because this is not working. It's causing me pain, them pain, everyone pain. And in the silence and in the sitting quietly, in the connection back to myself, back to Allah, I had an insight, right? An insight is sight into your soul, a sight from here, from your heart, and not from your eyes. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran when he says that it's not the eyes that are blind, it's the hearts. And these are sight that comes from your heart is Allah's message to you. Allah is showing you something. He's trying to evolve you or grow you through the insight, and that comes directly from Allah. And it's similar and different to hindsight, right? Hindsight is like, oh, I should have done this, or now I can see this. Before I couldn't see that, right? And when we are so stuck in my rights, my entitlement, my children, I need to have them, hold them, consume them, possess them in order to be a mother, in order to love them, in order to, maintain my relationship as mother to these children that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me. I got stuck. You get stuck because in all that thinking, it clouds your judgment. It makes you heavy in this mental fog, and you can't access the clarity or the space in where you can receive the insight that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending you. And so, subhanAllah, the insight that came to me, this was like almost 4 years ago. Yeah. Now, when this insight came, oh my God, it hit me deep to the core, because how it came was like Allah talking to me saying, Raisa, thrive where you are being planted. So what did that mean to me? That means that your children are not, first of all, they don't belong to you. They belong to Allah, and Allah is handling them and taking care of them and giving them what they need, right? So stop chasing, stop trying to possess and grab and bring to you something that is not for you right now. And when that hit me, I was like, subhanallah, where has Allah planted me now? And Allah had planted me in many different places. One was having an opportunity to have a do-over or redo with a relationship with my mom, which was very different than that of growing up. And I had an opportunity to, in that relationship, become the child to my mother that I want my children to be to me. So it made sense for me, like this was being connected full circle, right? So I got to start with me. I got to start with my relationship with my mother before I can start forcing a relationship for my children to have with their mother, just me. And so where else am I being planted? You know, I had an opportunity, and I still do, alhamdulillah, to have a different relationship with my mother and to take care of her, to live with her, and just, you know, earn Allah's pleasure through that. And the other place Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was planting me was in the work that I do now of supporting Muslimas going through divorce and going through co-parenting challenges and healing from that, coming back to their own self and their own connection to themselves and Allah and to their fitrah, and healing it from that perspective. And then stepping into the best version of themselves. So this way they could take charge of the life that they want to live and that they deserve to live with clarity, confidence, and tawakkul, you know, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us. And the last place I was being planted is a relationship with my daughter, who is a lot younger than the boys. And I was having an opportunity, because she lives with me, I was having an opportunity to raise her in a different way than I did with the boys, because I'm a different person today than I was when I was a parent to my boys when they were a lot younger. And so this is the work of recognizing and pausing generational patterns of pain that have been passed down in myself, with myself, you know, pausing that and stopping that with me and offering something else to my daughter, you know, helping her to be able to communicate and interact with a father who is very, you know, has a lot of very, very high expectations and demanding and controlling, and how to find her voice in that, because I went through the same thing as well in that relationship, you know, finding my voice and stepping up and speaking up and speaking from my own authentic truth. But I had to find that for myself. And now I can help my daughter with that, because her relationship with her father is very, very important. And, you know, for her to learn how to be her true authentic self, even in that relationship when the default has been, you know, to live a duality, to live a dual life of, you know, behaving one way when she's with her dad and then behaving another way when she's with me, and just performing the way that, you know, her parents expect her to. She doesn't know who she is, right? She doesn't know how to connect with herself, how to trust herself, but I get to teach her all that. And I get to do that in a very compassionate way and a nurturing way, and help her to accept herself and acknowledge herself in terms of her self-esteem and her, you know, inner confidence, to be able to not break the ties and the relationships with her father, even though it can be painful at some point. So, you know, you can find your way through your story and your journey with hope and possibility when you connect back to your fitrah, to yourself, and to Allah, because Allah is always guiding us and giving us messages. It's just that we can't hear it because we have so much mental clutter and racing thoughts going on that we get distracted, and we're like, oh, I should do this and I should do that, and I'm going to lose this and I'm going to lose that. Like we go in all different directions and we just get really torn, right? So what's changed and shifted for me is my level of taqwa and tawakkul has elevated. With each subsequent test and challenge, it has elevated. And it's brought me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that in itself is worth everything. I'm able to embrace qadr of Allah with acceptance and be happy for what Allah wants from me, rather than feel like I'm fighting or competing with, no, I want this, Allah, and I'm not getting it, and Allah has a different plan for me. But coming into alignment, what is Allah wanting from me? What is Allah, where is He guiding me and showing me, and acceptance that yes, my boys are not for me right now, and that relationship with me is being paused, and Allah is handling it and managing it. And I, live in hope and possibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring my children back to me through him, just like He did for Prophet Musa's mother. And I live with that every day, and I have such tawakkul and conviction, yaqeen, that it will happen. I don't know how, I don't know when, but that's not for me to figure out. My job is to focus on where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has planted me, and to focus on that, and know that I don't have to do anything to get my children back. That bond between mother and child, no one can, cut or desecrate, even if they want to, because that's just the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created that bond, and I have birthed them, right? So it's a very different way of living, and embracing that qadr. It's also called rida, like when you love and you're happy about what Allah wants for you, rather than like, fine, I'll go drudgingly, like that's still like there's that level of resistance and not being able to let go or submit yet. I have a newfound relationship with my mom, and this has been a huge blessing, as we know that, being able to serve and care and having a relationship of kindness and care with your parents, especially your mother, is, a key to Jannah. Now also, and I feel so blessed because like I've been given a redo, and we usually don't get redos in life, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this to me. So I'm very grateful for that. I can much more easily spot when I'm in a test, and I know intuitively how to respond. I'm not like in this state of panic and frustration, right? Because I understand where my human experience is coming from. I understand, I'm not afraid of my feelings because I know what they mean and what they don't mean. So, my internal state, my emotional state, and even my physical state, I understand what's happening, and I'm not afraid of it. And I don't need to escape or avoid or freak out. I can sit in that discomfort of the unknown. And through this process, I see how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has removed so many people and things from my life that I had attachments towards, unhealthy attachments that were in competition for the only attachment that my heart was designed for, which was for Allah, right? I don't take what people say or do personally, because I understand that it's a reflection of them and it's not a reflection of me. And it shows me and demonstrates what's happening for them inside. And, I can sit with people when they may be saying or doing things that are maybe an attack of me. But I know how to handle those situations by setting limits in a way where, with what I say, how I say it, I can communicate what is okay, what is not okay, what is acceptable, what is tolerable, in a way that I'm not threatened, in a way that I am not being defensive, but I'm doing it in a space of compassion for myself and the other person. And just very matter of factly, like, no, this is not okay, right? And this is also the prophetic example of how the Prophet ﷺ gave advice, and he gave direction, always through compassion, never through harshness or defensiveness or anger, right? And it allows me, being in this space and this state of being, allows me to live it in my fitra state of fearless confidence, effortless patience, and tawakkul. And it's allowing me to, because the tests, they don't stop. They don't stop coming just because you've gone through one test. Actually, the more you keep elevating, in your state of being and your resilience and how you navigate and handle that test, and elevate in Allah's eyes, closer to him, the tests, they come harder because you're capable of more. Allah only sends us what we're capable of handling. He knows that, and he'll never send us more than we can, to burden us and more than we can handle. So my message to you really is that, there's a difference between giving up and surrendering to the will of Allah. We're not giving up with defeat and hopelessness, right? We're surrendering to the will of Allah. Surrendering is acceptance of Allah's plan, right? It's, that it's, and that one step higher, as I mentioned, is wanting for yourself what Allah wants for you. And giving up, just saying like, oh, okay, fine, whatever, I'll accept it. That's like losing hope. And our faith is not about losing hope. It's all about hope, actually. The shaitan's way is all about losing hope. And, resisting at all costs to do whatever it takes to have Raisa's way, Raisa's plan to prevail. That's just my ego at play. And so I had a choice whether to let them go or hold on tighter. And the right choice, the choice that was pleasing to Allah, was to let them go and leave them with Allah. And, we all have a choice to act from our wisdom or our ego. And, Muslims, we remain steadfast with tawakkul. We don't give up. We don't lose hope and live in defeat, right? And this is what our faith teaches us, our deen teaches us. And having this understanding of how your human experience is created, where your feelings are coming from, what they mean, and not acting on your feelings and your thinking and your ego, and rather sitting in the pause and the silence, hearing the message and for that Allah is trying to send you, that's going to tell you your answers and the right thing for you to do. So for you, my message is to inspire you and leave you with hope that every individual gets custom tailored tests. Learning how to intuitively navigate yours is your birthright. Like you're already equipped to know how to navigate the test that Allah sends you, right? Because he made you that way. And there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken in you that needs to be fixed. It's just a matter of coming back home to reconnection to your fitrah, to yourself and to Allah. And like I said, every individual has a connection with Allah and with their wisdom. And so when you are connected to that, insight and solutions are, transmitted through that connection. Even if you're facing such an excruciating, painful test, such as losing or being rejected by your children. And one thing I want to say about that is that even though it feels so painful, you're still okay, even when you're not feeling that way. Even if you're not feeling okay, you're still okay, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never send you more than you can handle. And when you internalize this and you in your heart, you will start operating from that space, and it won't be painful anymore. Okay, and you won't be afraid of the feelings of pain or fear or loss or grief that comes your way. You'll be able to handle that. You'll be able to sit in that space of discomfort, and it will pass. And the more you're able to sit in it, it will pass quicker and quicker, because it's when we, sit in it and make up stories or, about what's happening, and we just start focusing on it, it gets bigger. And that's where it gets worse, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a purpose behind every test and challenge he's sending. And the purpose really is to grow you and elevate you in this world and the next. So you can become the best version of yourself and your character and all the virtues, just patience and taqwa and tawakkul. And, it's not about the test, for Allah knows what he's sending to whom. It's about your response. And if you'd like more help or support on your journey through the breakdown of your marriage, through your divorce, even post-divorce, please reach out to me at raisaghiwala.com. I'd be happy to support you. And I hope that this talk left you inspired to know that no matter what experience you're going through in your divorce, even if you feel like you're losing your children, that you are okay and you will get through this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
I hope you really benefited from that amazing session. If you're at risk of missing anything, it's a small investment to upgrade to VIP and have lifetime access to the recordings. Better still, join me for the Peaceful Parenting from the Inside Out 8-week program that we're starting after Ramadan, that will take you step by step through how you can become the confident, compassionate, and calm parent you dream to be. And on top of that, you'll get the bonus of the VIP recordings included. If you've already purchased the VIP, go to your VIP area and you can get a coupon discount for the parenting program. The links for the VIP and Peaceful Parenting are below this video. Check them out and don't miss out. I'd love to see you in there, especially in the Peaceful Parenting program, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.